Hello class. Okay, so I'm sure that you have finished all of your prep work or finalizing your prep work for your mastery exam. And I just wanted to send a few reminders that, as you do your final check, just to make sure that you've incorporated everything that you need to as you prepare. So we went over all this a couple times in class, but I just included some new examples, especially for the middle paragraphs, just in case, the examples we used in class weren't clear enough and you needed one last idea. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we dedicated a lot of time to this in class, but just remember that your opening paragraph follows the structure of introducing the case in one or two sentences, introducing the problem specifically with a sentence or two, and then introducing the person whose response you'll be discussing. So, just for example, Joe Schmo, Director of Communications at Schmo Industries, has experience in conflict management and gives Jane advice on how to handle a problem of Andy's destructive behavior. That would be a segue sentence into the thesis, and then you have your thesis statement and your three claims. Okay, your thesis statement, very important to remember, is that you're making an argument in this essay. So your main claim has to say something like, Joe Schmo's recommendations are the best, or they're the most reasonable, or the most helpful for three reasons, colon. If you don't use one of these words here in bolds, like best or most reasonable or most helpful, then you're not making an argument. And that, of course, will fail your mastery exam right away. So make sure that for your three claims that you are using an assertive modifier with your verbs. So as we discussed in class, each of the three claims should be something like he correctly suggests, appropriately recommends, accurately contends, rightly suggests, whatever. You only need three of them, and these words are fine, so you could use them or something similar. It's the same idea, is that you have a main argument, so-and-so's response is best, for X, Y, and Z reasons. So your X, Y, and Z reasons, you're saying that they're correct, or that they're accurate, or that they're helpful, or precise, or reasonable. I mean, that's your argument. You're saying that they're good for some reason. That's why you selected the person's responses. Okay, so that's the opening. The middle paragraphs, you can think of them as, well, the reason that they're there is to bolster your argument with evidence. So if you're sitting in a room and somebody says, no, Kathy's response is the best for XYZ, and you say, no, Chuck's response is the best for XYZ, and they challenge you and they say, well, what's so good about that last reason that you said, that third claim? And you can say, well, he gives the example of this or that, and I think that's useful because this is what your middle paragraphs are doing. So first you repeat your claim, one of your claims for the opening sentence, you provide your evidence, and you conclude the paragraph. And let me just give some examples of how this middle part of evidence is done. Okay, the claim is obvious, so if we have our opening paragraph here with our backgrounds and introducing the case, introducing the problem, Andy becomes angry, blah blah blah, introducing the person's response. Thesis is the best for three reasons, colon. She appropriately asserts blah blah blah, three claims. Okay, we have our opening paragraph. I deleted a couple of the middle paragraphs, but if we get to the third claim here, she rightly recommends that Jane needs to get Andy's attention. This is from Mary Rowe's sample essay that was up on the blackboard. She rightly recommends that Jane needs to get Andy's attention so he can work with him to change his negative behavior. So that means that we want to repeat that claim as the topic sentence of our third paragraph. Again, I deleted the other two. And then we can move into our specific evidence. So we're proving our point using specific examples from where? From the case. It's not things that you're making up. You can get them right for the case. You should get them right from the case. And, well, does Mary Rowe provide some specific examples to back up this claim of getting Andy's attention? Well, let's see. This was the one who she recommended that he watch the movie. He could take some quiz to, again, realize what maybe some things that he's doing wrong to change his behavior. So we're still on topic. And having a boss talk to her. So there's three specific examples here: the movie, the quiz, and having a boss talk to him. All of them related to this claim about getting his attention. Okay, so when you give your examples, just make sure that they're both specific and argumentative. What do I mean specific? Well, if Joe Schmo recommends that Jane start a support group, that's not so specific. Instead, we could say Schmo recommends that Jane start a weekly anger management support group for Andy's teammates. That's much more specific. And it's not just words for the sake of words. All these words are actually doing something useful in the sentence. So they're providing just enough detail so that the reader can really understand what it is. Okay, so in addition to making the recommendation specific, you also want to make sure that they're argumentative. What that means is that you're not just repeating like a parrot the three things. So if we look at this paragraph here and it was just, let's just forget this for a second. If we just said Jane recommends, Roe recommends that Jane have Andy watch What Women Want. Roe also says that Andy should take the HBR quiz. Finally, Roe says that suggests that. Okay. So let's pretend, even if I used very specific language here, like let's say that I even use very specific language. So I've hit on this part about being specific. The problem is I've just repeated the three ideas, but I haven't said why they're good. So I haven't made a convincing case for this. So a better way to do this would be something like, Roe's emphasis on getting Andy's attention is important because currently Andy doesn't perceive the need to change. We could say something like, Roe's recommendation that Jane have Andy watch What Women Want is helpful because Andy is likely to understand that he's the same things at work. I'm not using the best language here. I shouldn't use things, but okay. He has the same habits at work. Convince to change, or something like this. So I'm making an argument. I'm using the evidence, and I'm saying why it's important or what the result might be. So this is how you'd want to present your examples, not just repeat them like a parrot, but say why they're good or say why they're important. Another example would be, so instead of Shmo recommends that Jane start a support group, well, one, we make it specific. Okay, now it's specific. Joe recommends that Jane start a weekly anger management support group for Andy's teammates. So Shmo's recommendation is helpful because Andy is unlikely to change, whereas the coworkers can realistically learn coping mechanisms to deal with Andy. So this is me using specific evidence from the case and saying that it's good or it's helpful or it's practical or it's reasonable, something like that. So this is my way of putting it in an argumentative way as opposed to just using this first part of the sentence. Oops. You can see the difference there. So make sure that your examples are framed this way. The third reminder about the middle paragraphs is to stay on topic. So again, using this example here, if this is our claim about getting Andy to realize things, getting Andy's attention so that he can change his behavior, then all of our examples should be about that. If somewhere in the middle of the paragraph I added a sentence about Jane doing some sort of self-analysis, like let's say that we had this part about the HBR quiz, we had Andy take it, and then I added a sentence and say, also Jane could take the quiz and maybe she would become a better manager. That's completely off topic because the claim is about getting Andy to realize things, not getting Jane to realize things as a manager. If you go off topic even with one sentence like that, you will most likely fail the mastery exam, but the idea isn't just that you pass the mastery exam. The idea is that you can organize your thoughts logically for the reader, and this is important in your future classes, in any business reports that you write in the future, if you write news articles, wherever your career takes you. You have to be able to convince your audience of different things, and the way to do that is to avoid confusing them, for starters, by mixing all sorts of different information together. You put your information forth logically in an organized fashion and use specific and convincing statements. So make sure you stay on topic. And then a final recommendation for your middle paragraphs. We talked about this in the second prep class, is to do these if-then statements. You could use one of these per paragraph to conclude each middle paragraph. So if something like, if Jane implements Schmo's suggestions to promote the team's morale and coping mechanisms, then Andy's behavior should be less interrupted to the team's productivity. It's just a nice way to wrap up the paragraph. These if-then statements, you don't have to do it this way. You can conclude with some other sentence at the end of your paragraph. But I just find that it's easy to remember the structure. It's easy to find an example. Or it's easy to use the examples to come to this kind of conclusion. So it's a nice way to complete the paragraph. Okay, so now that you have your opening paragraph was nice and easy, you have your 3 middle paragraphs, and then you just need a concluding paragraph. And for your concluding paragraph, of course, as we talked about, you just make sure that you repeat your thesis in 3 claims. That's your first big sentence of your concluding paragraph. And then you just need a couple sentences. Just form some logical, well, you can make a summarizing statement, or you could form a logical conclusion, or discuss maybe one implication of what might happen. Just keep it to a couple sentences. You don't want to risk going off topic here. Just maybe one sentence to summarize. If all of the person's advice falls in the area of conflict management, you could summarize them under that theme. If they all fit that theme, you could conclude with what if Jane follows all of the examples, then such and such should happen. And that's it, conclude the paper. So nice and easy. And just a reminder here about the rubric, which I'll print out and give to you during class as well. You have to hit all these criteria, remember. So that's everything that I just went over in the video. You've got your thesis statement with no implied agreement. That means you're taking a stand, best, most reasonable, whatever. You have your 3 claims, which will be the topic sentence of your paragraph, so make sure they have their assertive modifier and that they're specific. So check. Make sure that your paragraphs focus only on one topic sentence claim, so you're just copying your topic sentence, your claims from the 3 claims as your opening sentence for each paragraph. And then no topic drift. This is a big one. I think this is where people really get in trouble. Just stay on topic. So again, if your claim is that one of your claims is that Chuck's response was best because he recommended that the group clarify their roles, then that paragraph should be specific examples of Chuck's suggestions of how to do that. Evidence strongly supports the claims and is accurate and specific. Accurate means you actually got this information from the case, so don't use examples that aren't from the person's response. Specific, so like I said, don't just say start a support group, say that you know exactly what it is or whatever the person's recommendation is. Details and data are provided, so again, just being detailed and specific. Argumentative evidence, not narrative. That's what I talked about there which is just to make sure that you're not just repeating their examples, but you're saying why it's good or helpful or useful. So that combination of being specific and argumentative is what you want in your middle paragraphs. And then all this minor stuff, which is correct grammar, punctuation, clear writing, concise. Really try to check through and get rid of any cliches. Make sure that you're using concise verbs. They're taking into account, of course, that you're writing this by hand, but it still has to be written well. So clear, direct, simple sentences are usually best. And good luck as you prepare and do your final work on your master exam case.